My name is Emily. I'm 19 years old. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I just finished high school a few months ago. I live with my mom and little brother, Ryan. Life is quiet. I stay home most days, help around the house, and sometimes go out for coffee. I don't have a job yet. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do next. But one thing I do know, Jake made my days feel less ordinary. I met Jake during my last year of school. He was in my math class. He was kind, quiet, and always helped others. He was the kind of boy who opened doors for teachers and picked up dropped books without being asked. Most boys joked around or tried to show off, but not Jake. He stayed calm. He smiled a lot, but never too big. Just a soft, polite smile. I liked that about him. For weeks, we didn't talk. We just passed each other in the halls. But then one afternoon in the library, I dropped my notebook. I bent down to pick it up, but he got to it first. "Here you go," he said. "Thanks," I replied, feeling a little shy. He noticed the book I was holding. "That one's good. Kind of sad, though," he added. I smiled and said, "I'll still read it." After that, we started talking more often. Little things at first. Homework, books, music. Then more. Sometimes we studied together in the school library. Sometimes we walked home part of the way. He didn't live far from me. One evening while walking, he told me something personal. "My dad moved to Texas," he said. "I live with my mom now." I nodded and said, "I live with my mom too. My dad left when I was small." He looked at me and said softly, "That must have been hard." I shrugged. "It's just how it is." He paused, then said, "You're stronger than you look." My heart felt warm after that. I kept hearing his words again in my head when I went to sleep that night. Over time, I started thinking about Jake more. He was gentle. He made me feel seen. I didn't know if he liked me the same way, but I wanted to be near him. I started waiting for his messages. I smiled more when he was around. I wasn't sure what it meant yet, but it felt like something real. Then came Rachel. Rachel was smart and very pretty. She wore nice clothes and always had perfect hair. She laughed a lot. People liked her. I had nothing against her, but something about her made me feel unsure. One day, I saw her talking to Jake. She touched his arm and laughed at something he said. He smiled back. It was a small moment, but it stayed with me. Later that week, I saw her sit beside him in the cafeteria. She gave him a juice bottle. He said thanks and opened it. They talked for a while. I sat at a different table and watched. I couldn't eat much. I felt something strange inside me. I didn't want to name it yet, but I felt it all the same. That evening, I messaged Jake. "Hey, want to go for a short walk after dinner?" He replied, "Sorry, I've got plans tonight. Maybe tomorrow?" I typed back, "No problem." But I didn't ask who the plans were with. I didn't want to sound like I cared too much. The next day, I saw him and Rachel walking together near the bookstore downtown. They were laughing. Again, that strange feeling came back. It was like a quiet pain sitting just under my chest. I didn't say anything to Jake the next time I saw him, but later that night he messaged me, "Can we talk tomorrow? Just us?" I said yes. We met at the small park near my house. The air was cool. The sky looked soft and gray. We sat on a wooden bench near the trees. "I saw you and Rachel," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. He nodded. "Yeah. She's been around a lot lately." "Do you like her?" I asked. Jake looked away for a second. Then he said, "She's nice, but I don't know what I feel right now." I looked down at my hands. "So why do you spend time with her?" He took a deep breath. "I guess I'm just tired. People expect things from me. Rachel wants things too. But it's hard to think sometimes." "I don't want anything from you," I said quietly. He looked at me. His voice softened. "I know. That's why I like being around you." I didn't say anything, but inside, my heart started to hope again. The next few days were confusing. Jake still messaged me, still talked to me at school, but he also spent time with Rachel. She started posting pictures on her social media. One was a photo of them sitting at a table together. She had written, "My favorite person." I stared at the photo for a long time. My stomach felt tight. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what we were. I didn't ask him about it. I didn't want to seem jealous, but I was. A few days later, Rachel came up to me at lunch. She smiled. "Hey, Emily. I know you and Jake are close." I nodded, unsure of where this was going. "He's great," she said. "We've been hanging out a lot." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Then she walked away. I sat there, unable to eat. I didn't know if that was a warning or just her way of telling me that I was too late. That evening, I went back to the park bench where I had talked to Jake. I sat alone, hoping he might come. But he didn't. The next morning at school, I saw him by the lockers. He looked tired. "You okay?" I asked. He gave a small smile. "Just thinking too much." "Me too," I said. He looked at me for a long second. "You're one of the few people I feel normal around." I wanted to hold on to that moment. I wanted to ask him to stop seeing Rachel, but I didn't. I didn't want to push, so I stayed quiet. I didn't know what would happen next, but I could feel something shifting, and not in a way that felt good. Before I go on, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. The next few weeks passed slowly. Jake still talked to me, but something had changed. Sometimes he was quiet, even when we were alone. Sometimes he replied late to my messages. And Rachel? She was always around. At school, at the coffee shop, outside the library. Always smiling. Always near him. One day, I saw them walking together again. This time, she was holding his arm. I watched from across the street. I tried to tell myself it didn't matter, but it did. It mattered more than I wanted it to. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at my ceiling and thought about everything. About Jake, about Rachel, about the way things used to feel simple. I thought about how much I liked him, how safe I felt when we talked. I missed that feeling. I missed him, and yet he wasn't even gone. The next day at school, I tried to act normal. I smiled at my classmates. I did my work, but my heart felt heavy. During lunch, I saw Jake sitting alone at the edge of the courtyard. I walked over and sat down beside him. "You okay?" I asked. He looked at me and nodded. "Yeah, just tired." There was a long pause. Then I said, "You don't talk to me as much lately." Jake looked down. "I know. I'm sorry." I waited, hoping he'd say more, hoping he'd explain. But he didn't. Are you with Rachel now?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I don't know. She likes me, I guess. I'm trying to figure things out." I bit my lip. "And me? What about us?" Jake looked at me, and for a moment I thought he was going to say something honest, something real, but instead he just said, "I don't want to hurt anyone." Those words hurt more than anything. I stood up. "You already are." I walked away before he could say anything else. Later that evening, I went to my favorite spot near the lake. It was quiet there. I sat on the bench and watched the water move. I thought about the past few months, about the library, about the park, about the way Jake made me feel when he said I was strong. It all felt far away now. The next day, I saw Rachel again. She smiled at me in the hallway. "Hey," she said like nothing was wrong. I didn't smile back. "You win," I said quietly. She tilted her head. "Win what?" "Jake," I said. "You got what you wanted." She laughed a little. "Is that what you think? That this is some kind of game?" I looked at her. "Isn't it?" Rachel didn't answer. She just walked away, her smile gone. After that, things got even colder. Jake stopped texting me. He didn't sit with me at lunch. He stopped walking my way after school. I tried not to care, but every day felt heavier than the last. Then one morning, something happened. Jake didn't come to school. At first, I thought he was sick. But then he didn't come the next day, or the day after that. By Friday, people were talking. Someone said he moved. Someone else said he just left town with his mom. No one seemed to know for sure. I checked my phone. No new messages. I sent one. "Hey, where are you?" No reply. I waited a few more days. Still nothing. Then one night, I saw his name pop up on my screen. Jake. I'm sorry I didn't say goodbye. We moved to Ohio. Things were too messy. I needed a break from everything. I stared at the message. My hands felt cold. I typed, "Why didn't you tell me?" He replied, "Because I didn't want to make it harder. I care about you. I care about Rachel too. But I couldn't choose. So I left." I didn't know what to say, so I didn't reply. That night, I sat in bed and cried. Not loud, not messy, just quiet tears that wouldn't stop. I wasn't crying because I lost him. I was crying because there was never a choice. We both gave our hearts to someone who couldn't hold them. At school, people kept talking about Jake. Rachel didn't say much. She looked different now. Not happy, not proud, just quiet. We passed each other in the hall one afternoon. We didn't speak. We didn't smile. We were two girls who wanted the same boy, and neither of us got him. Later that week, I went back to the lake. The bench was empty. The wind was soft. I sat there and closed my eyes. I thought about what Jake said, that he couldn't choose. Maybe he was right. Maybe he wasn't ready for love. Maybe he never really loved either of us. Or maybe he did, but not enough. I took a deep breath and whispered to myself, "It's okay. You're going to be okay." And for the first time in weeks, I believed it. Jake left. Rachel lost. I let go. Sometimes love doesn't have a happy ending. Sometimes the person you want walks away. But that doesn't mean your story ends there. It just means a new chapter is waiting. Weeks passed. The weather got colder. Leaves turned red and gold. School felt different without Jake. His name came up less and less. People moved on. But I didn't forget him. Not yet. I still walked past the library where we first spoke. I still sat on our park bench sometimes. I didn't expect him to come back. I knew he wouldn't. But memories don't leave as quickly as people do. Rachel didn't talk to me again. She stopped smiling at school. She walked with her friends, but her face looked tired. One day, I saw her standing alone near the lockers. She looked at her phone, then put it away quickly. I knew that feeling, waiting for a message that never comes. We never said it out loud, but both of us had the same truth in our hearts. Jake left, and we were both just names in his story. One afternoon, I sat at the lake again. I watched the water move slowly. The sky was soft and gray. I remembered the last time Jake sat beside me. I remembered his quiet voice and the way he looked down when he didn't know what to say. He was never cruel. He was just unsure. Maybe that was worse. I pulled out my phone and read his last message again. I couldn't choose, so I left. I stared at those words. Part of me wanted to be angry, but I wasn't. I was just tired. I stood up and walked around the water. The air was cool on my face. For the first time, I felt something different. Not sadness, not pain, just peace. He was gone. And now, I could begin again. A few days later, I saw Rachel at the small bookstore near school. She was looking at the poetry section. I was just there to buy a notebook. I almost walked away, but then I saw her wipe her eyes. She turned and saw me. For a second, we just stood there, two girls with the same story. She walked up to me. Her voice was soft. "Do you still think I won?" I shook my head. "No. I think we both lost." She gave a sad smile. "I guess that's true." We didn't talk long, just a few words. But in that small moment, I didn't feel alone anymore. We both liked the same boy. We both gave him pieces of our hearts, and he left both behind. That night, I wrote in my notebook. I wrote about Jake, about what he meant to me, about how he made me feel strong, then confused, then invisible. I didn't write to send it to him. I wrote so I could stop carrying the weight in my chest. I started writing more after that. Not about Jake, about other things, dreams, plans, myself. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew I had to start somewhere, so I did. One Sunday morning, I was at the cafe near the school. I saw someone from my old English class sitting at a table. His name was Noah. He smiled and waved. I waved back and sat a few tables away. He came over. "Hey," he said. "I haven't seen you in a while." "Yeah. Things got quiet after graduation." We talked for a little while, about books, about music, nothing deep, but it felt good to laugh. I didn't think about Jake while we talked, and that was something new. When I walked home later, I smiled to myself. Not because I liked Noah. I didn't. Not yet. But because I didn't feel broken anymore. I felt light. Free. A few days later, I heard someone at school say Jake posted pictures from his new town. He looked happy. Some people said he got a job. Others said he was starting college soon. I didn't look him up. I didn't want to know. I didn't need to. Rachel didn't ask about him either. She stopped posting pictures. She joined the art club. I heard she started painting again. As for me, I kept writing. I started taking walks again, not hoping to see anyone, just walking for myself. I started smiling at small things again. Sunlight through trees, music on the radio, a good book on a rainy day. Love can feel big. It can feel like it will last forever, but sometimes it doesn't. And when it ends, it's easy to think you did something wrong. But I didn't. Rachel didn't. We both gave what we had. It just wasn't enough for someone who didn't know what he wanted. Jake never chose either of us. And maybe that was the best thing he ever did. because it gave us both a chance to choose ourselves. The last time I cried for him, I didn't know it was the last time. It just happened. One evening, I sat by the window and felt the tears fall. But when they stopped, I didn't feel empty. I felt calm, like a storm had passed. That's how healing begins, not with a big moment, but with small changes, less pain, more peace. Jake was part of my story, but he wasn't the whole story. And now, it's my turn to write the rest. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon. My name is Emma. I am 28 years old. I live in a small town. My story is not special, but it is full of love, pain, and sacrifice. I grew up in a quiet house with my parents and my little brother, Jack. My father worked in a school. My mother stayed at home. She cooked for us and helped us with schoolwork. We did not have much money, but we had a lot of love. When I was a child, I wanted to be a doctor. I loved helping people. I read many books and studied hard. My parents were proud of me. They always said, "Emma will do something big one day." When I was 18, I got into a good college in the city. It was far from home. I was scared, but also happy. I packed my clothes, my books, and my dreams. My parents said goodbye with tears in their eyes. My mother held my hand and said, "Be strong, Emma. We believe in you." City life was busy and loud. Everything felt fast. I lived in a small hostel room. It was not nice, but I didn't care. I was there to study. In my second year, I met Daniel. He was in the same college, but in a different class. We met in the library. I was looking for a book on the top shelf. He saw me and said, "Do you need help?" I said yes. He gave me the book and smiled. After that, we met again in the library. Then we talked in the canteen. We became friends. He was quiet and kind. He asked questions. He listened. He never made fun of anyone. He liked simple things. I felt safe with him. We never said, "I love you," but I knew I loved him. And I think he loved me too. When I was sick, he brought me tea. When he was sad, I gave him my scarf. We talked about our dreams. He wanted to go back to his town and help his father. I wanted to work in a big hospital, but I never told him that I dreamed of a life with him too. In our final year, he said to me, "Emma, I will leave the city after college. My dad needs help with the shop." I looked at him and smiled, but inside I felt pain. I said, "That's nice. Your family will be happy." He looked down and said, "Yes, I hope so." We both knew our time was short, but we still met every week. We walked in the park. We ate ice cream. We shared stories. I wanted to tell him how I felt, but I was afraid. What if he didn't feel the same? After graduation, I got a job offer from a hospital in the city. It was a good job, The hospital was clean. The pay was high. My dream was coming true. I called my father to share the news. He was quiet. Then he said, "Emma, your mother is not well. Jack is also not doing well in school. We need you here." I stopped smiling. My hand felt cold. I looked at the job letter on my table. I looked at my books. Then I looked at the photo of my family on the wall. I went home the next day. My town was still the same. The streets were dusty. The shops were small, but I felt warm to be home. My mother looked tired. She coughed often. My father looked older. Jack was quiet and sad. I started working at a small clinic. It was not what I dreamed of, but it was okay. People needed help. I helped them. My days were long, but I smiled. Daniel and I still talked, but only through messages. He was busy. I was busy. One day I got a call from him. "Hi, Emma," he said. His voice was soft. "I want to tell you something." "What is it?" I asked. "My parents chose a girl for me," he said. "We are getting married next month." I closed my eyes. I didn't speak. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "That's good. I hope you are happy." He paused. Then he said, "She's nice. I think it will be okay." I said, "You deserve a good life." After we ended the call, I cried. I cried for a long time. He never knew what I felt. He never knew what I gave up. He didn't know I said no to my dream job. He didn't know I wanted to stay in the city near him. He didn't know that I came home because my family needed me. He didn't know that I loved him. I never told him, and I never will. Weeks passed. My mother's health got worse. I cooked, cleaned, and helped at the clinic. I also helped Jack with his studies. He smiled more now. He said, "Thank you for being here." I smiled too, but my heart was still heavy. One night my father said, "Emma, you have done so much for us. You gave up your job. You gave up your life. I am sorry." I held his hand and said, "Don't say sorry. This is my choice." But in my heart, I knew it was more than a choice. It was love. I loved my family more than myself. I gave up my own happiness for theirs. Sometimes, late at night, I look out the window. I think about Daniel. I think about what life could have been. A small home, 2 cups of tea, soft music, maybe children, maybe laughter, but I don't cry anymore. I still carry the pain, but I also carry strength. He never knew what I gave up, but I do. And that's enough. My life at home was busy. Every morning I went to the clinic. I worked there for 6 hours. After that, I came home to make lunch. My mother stayed in bed most days. She was too weak to cook. I cleaned the kitchen. I washed the clothes. I helped my brother Jack with his homework. Every day was the same. But I never complained. I told myself, this is my duty. This is what love means. Sometimes I sat near the window in the evening. The light was soft. The sky turned pink. I looked outside and thought about my old life in the city. I remembered the busy roads and tall buildings. I remembered the hospital with white walls and long halls. I remembered the nurse who smiled at me and said, "You're a smart girl. You'll do well here." That hospital job was my dream. It was the thing I wanted most. But I left that dream behind. I left it to come home. I left it for my family. I also thought about Daniel. I met him during college. We used to sit under the big tree behind the library. We drank tea and talked about small things. We never said, "I love you," but we knew. At least I did. I wanted to stay close to him. I thought we had time. I thought the right moment would come. But then I got the call from my father. He said, "Come home, Emma. Your mother is sick." I did not think twice. I packed my bag and came back. One day, I was walking to the market. I saw Daniel on the road near the tea stall. He looked a little older. His hair was shorter. He was wearing a white shirt. He smiled when he saw me. I smiled back. I didn't know what to say. He walked up to me and said, "I didn't know you were in town." I said, "I work at the clinic now. I came home after college." He looked surprised. "I thought you took the hospital job." I looked down. I couldn't. My family needed me. He was quiet for a few seconds. Then he said, "You always think of others first." We talked for a few minutes. He said he was working with his father now. He said married life was fine. I nodded and said nothing. I didn't want to hear more. I didn't want to know about his wife. I didn't want to feel pain. He said it was good to see me. I said, "Take care of yourself." Then he walked away. He didn't look back. That was the last time I saw him. That evening I came home and sat with my mother. I made her soup and gave her medicine. She looked at me and said, "Emma, you look tired." I smiled and said, "I'm okay, Mom." She touched my hand and asked, "Do you think about your life?" I looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" I asked. She said, "You had big dreams. You wanted to help people in the city, but you stayed here. You take care of me. You help your brother. But who takes care of you?" I didn't know what to say. My throat felt tight. I didn't want to cry, but my eyes were full. I looked away. She said, "I'm sorry, Emma. You gave up a lot." I shook my head and said, "Don't say that. I made a choice. I did what I had to do." My mother was silent. Then she said, "I just want you to be happy." After she went to bed, I sat outside. The night was quiet. The stars were bright. I thought about what she said. Did I want something more? Did I regret my choice? The answer was not easy. Yes, I missed the life I left. I missed the hospital. I missed Daniel. I missed the feeling of having a plan. But I also knew this life mattered. I was helping my family. I was giving them my time and care. That was also love. My father worked at the local school. He came home tired every day, but he always smiled at me. One evening, he sat beside me and said, "I'm proud of you, Emma." I said, "Why?" He said, "You gave up your dream for your mother, for Jack, for me. That takes courage." I said, "Maybe, but sometimes I feel lost." He said, "You are not lost. You are the reason we are all okay." Weeks passed, then months. My mother's health stayed the same. Some days were better, some days were not. Jack finished his exams. He did well. He looked happier now. He said, "Emma, when I get a job, I will take care of everything. You can rest." I smiled. I touched his head and said, "That's very sweet of you." One afternoon, I got a letter from the hospital in the city. It was short. It said they had a new opening and asked if I was still interested. I looked at the letter for a long time. I didn't know what to feel. My hands shook. My eyes were wet. I showed the letter to my father. He read it and said, "You should go, Emma." I looked at him in shock. "What about Mom? What about Jack?" He said, "Jack is ready now, and your mother wants to see you happy." I showed the letter to my mother too. She took my hand and said, "Go, Emma. It's your time." That night, I sat alone in my room. I looked at my books. I looked at my old college photo. I looked at the picture of Daniel I still kept inside my drawer. I knew I would not see him again. He had his life. I had mine. But I still loved him. Quietly. Silently. He would never know. And that was okay. I made a choice the next morning. I would not go to the hospital. I wrote a thank you letter and said I could not accept the offer. My heart felt heavy, but also full. I looked at my mother sleeping. I looked at Jack reading a book. I looked at the small garden outside. I said to myself, "This is my place. This is my life." I did not become a big doctor in a big city. I did not wear a white coat or walk in tall buildings. I did not marry Daniel. I did not get a house with big windows and soft music. But I gave my time. I gave my care. I gave my love. He never knew what I gave up. He never knew how I felt. He never saw the letters I never sent. He never heard the words I never said. But I knew, and I was at peace. My days became quiet after that. The clinic stayed busy, but I knew how to handle the work. I knew all the patients by name. Some of them brought flowers. Some brought sweets. Most of them brought their pain. I gave them medicine. I gave them hope. That was all I had. My mother's health stayed the same. She still smiled when I brought her tea. She still called me her angel. Jack started doing small jobs in town. He helped at the grocery store for a few hours each day. One night he gave me a note with some money inside. "I want to help now," he said. My eyes filled with tears. He was not the little boy I helped with homework. He was growing into a good man. At the clinic, people started calling me Dr. Emma, though I was not a full doctor. I told them many times, "I'm not a doctor, only a nurse." But they still said it. I smiled and said nothing. I didn't correct them anymore. I didn't need a title to know who I was. I knew what I gave. I knew what I had lost, and I knew what I had kept. Sometimes I still thought about Daniel. Not every day, but sometimes I thought about his smile. I thought about the way he said my name. I thought about the day we met in the library when he helped me get that book. That memory always stayed soft and warm in my heart. He never called again. I didn't expect him to. He had a wife. He had a life. I was just a page in his book, but he was a chapter in mine. One morning, my mother's cough got worse. I sat by her side all day. She didn't eat much. She only drank water. I gave her medicine, but it didn't help. Her hands were cold. I put warm cloths on her feet. I held her hand. I said, "Don't worry. I'm here." At night she looked at me and said, "Emma, you are the best thing in my life." I shook my head and said, "You are mine." She smiled and closed her eyes. I sat with her until morning. When the sun came up, I looked at her face. She looked peaceful. She looked like she was sleeping, but she was gone. I didn't cry at first. I touched her face. I kissed her forehead. I whispered, "Thank you, Mom. Thank you for everything." Then I walked to the window and looked outside. The world was the same, but mine was different now. The next few days were hard. People came to our house. They brought food and flowers. They hugged me and said, "She was a kind woman." I smiled and thanked them. But inside, I was empty. After everything, the house felt too quiet. Jack stayed strong for me. He helped clean the house. He went to work every day. But I could see the sadness in his eyes. At night, we sat together in silence. There was nothing to say. She was not there anymore. 1 week later, I returned to the clinic. My hands shook as I opened the door. The nurse smiled at me and said, "Welcome back." I looked at the patients. They were waiting for me. I took a deep breath and said, "Let's begin." Helping others helped me heal. Every time I made someone feel better, I felt a little better too. But something in me had changed. I started to ask myself new questions. What will I do now? Who am I without my mother? What do I want next? Jack came to me one night with a surprise. He had found a college program in a nearby city. It was a short course in health work. He said, "Emma, if I do this course, I can get a better job. You won't have to do everything alone." I was proud of him. I said, "Go. I'll support you." When he left for his course, I was alone in the house. For the first time in many years, I had space to think. I looked at the walls. I looked at the photos. I looked at the mirror. I saw a woman with tired eyes, but I also saw a woman with strength. I had spent 10 years caring for others, first for my family, then for the people in my town. I asked myself again, what do I want? One day, I saw a poster at the clinic. It said there was a special health training in the capital city. It was for women with clinic experience. The course was short, only 2 months. It was free. I looked at the paper for a long time. Then I folded it and put it in my bag. That night I couldn't sleep. My heart was full of fear. Can I do this now? Am I too old to start again? But then I remembered my mother's words. I want you to be happy. I remembered what my father said. You are the reason we are okay. I remembered Jack saying, I will take care of things now. I sent my application the next morning. 2 weeks later, I got a reply. I was accepted. I didn't tell anyone at first. I just packed a small bag. I left a note for Jack. I am going to learn again. Don't worry. I will be back. Then I took the bus to the capital. The training was hard. I was the oldest student in the class. The others were younger, faster, louder. But I listened. I took notes. I worked late. I passed every test. The teacher said, "You have a calm mind. That is your power." After the course, I returned to my town with new skills and a new heart. I started a small care center next to the clinic. It was for women and children. I gave lessons on health. I gave talks on food and safety. I gave people hope. More people started to come. They said, "Thank you, Emma. We needed this." I smiled and said, "Me too." Months later, Jack came home. He finished his course and found a job in another town. He said, "I'm moving, but I'll visit often." I was happy for him. I said, "Go and live your life. You deserve it." One morning, I got a letter from the city hospital again. It was not a job offer this time. It was a thank you letter. They had heard about my center. They wrote, "You are doing great work. We are proud of you." I sat on the bench outside and held the letter. I looked at the sky. I smiled. I thought about my journey. I thought about everything I gave up. The hospital, the white coat, the money, Daniel, love, marriage, He never knew what I gave up. But maybe he didn't need to know, because I knew. I gave my dream to save someone else's. I gave my love to protect someone's peace. I gave my youth to carry a home. And now I had peace. I had purpose. I was not a wife. I was not a doctor. But I was still a woman with a heart full of love. And that was enough.